There are big changes coming for the way in which women who are in customary marriages will be treated with regard to property. The Recognition of Customary Marriage Amendment Act has been passed by the National Assembly. It's going to the President's desk for his signature. Joined now by Hopewell Saptecha, Director at Newzroom Afrika. Hopewell, good afternoon to you. There are a few aspects to this story. On the one side, as I understand it, there's been a couple of high court and I think one constitutional court ruling on this. We've got changes to the law. How is this going to change what happens particularly to women and property?
Sure. Thank you for having me. Interestingly, it's three different constitutional court cases, but in short, the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act differentiates with marriages entered into before the coming into of the act and after. So what the act bill, which now become an act, what it now does is that it doesn't differentiate. So in short, the act says that for those couples that are in a polygamous relationship, the women have equal rights with the husband to run the matrimonial household. And same applies to a monogamous relationship which was entered into before the coming into act. The bill has the effect that the woman will have equal right with the husband in running the household and all the assets that is co-owned together.
I mean, this can be really important in the event of a divorce, because we've seen situations where women have been left with nothing.
Absolutely. So never mind divorce, even during the marriage, in terms of custom, so the recognition currently says that the marriage is governed in terms of customary law. And what that means is that the husband, for example, can sell immovable property without the consent of the spouse. Now, what the amendment does is that if you haven't entered into an ANC, that you have a joint household or joint estate, then you cannot sell the property without the consent of the wife, as it were.
There's also been, if I recall correctly, an issue around retrospecificity. You know what I mean? Retrospecificity, right? So what this would have meant was that how you were treated in a marriage with regard to property could be different depending on whether you got married before or after a passing of the act or before and after a court order, which is obviously unfair.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you should touch on that, because the other aspect is that a couple can get married in terms of the Customary Marriages Act civilly, and they wouldn't have entered into an ANC. And then they'd enter into an ANC before they get married in terms of the Marriages Act, civil law, as it were. So now what Section 10.2 of the recognition says that you can convert your marriage. And what that then means is that you would have been married in community of property in terms of customary law, or in terms of a customary marriage, and then subsequently then get married in terms of civil law. So then the issue then is you are married in community of property at some point, and now you're married out of community of property. How then does that affect the joint estate and then the separate estate? All those sort of technical points, as it were.
Sometimes... Sorry, just when you say an ANC, you mean an anti-nuptial contract, not another ANC we talk about from time to time.
No, an anti-nuptial contract, as it were. Yeah, and in fact, the bill speaks of any dealings that took place before the act will come into, or the bill comes into effect, will be dealt with accordingly. So any matters that were in place will be dealt with accordingly, and then any new matters for divorce, for example, then we act in terms of the bill, which will become an act of law. And another provision that specifies in the bill, it says that should a person have known that there were amendments in place, then the new act will then take into effect as opposed to the old regime, as it were.
So in a way, we've been speaking about when there is property. What happens when there's just debt? Does it also mean that both parties are liable for that debt?
That's exactly it. So in terms of a joint estate, it's assets and liabilities. So any liabilities as well form part of that estate.
All of this, I mean, it's part of really big changes to ensure that everybody is treated equally. And for the Constitution, this is actually slightly problematic, because the Constitution has certain rights. There's a Bill of Rights. Everyone is equal before the law, men and women, in a marriage contract. At the same time, the Constitution recognizes customary law. Now, some people suggest there's an inherent conflict. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but does this sort of bring to the fore that question of whether there is an inherent conflict between customary law and the Constitution?
And the Constitution. So interestingly, one of the provisions as well that is to be amendment is the definition of a traditional leader. So in terms of the recognition of the Customary Marriages Act, a traditional leader is regarded to any person who is a leader of a particular tribe in terms of hierarchy. So we all know hierarchy means mostly males. So what the amendment then does, it says you are a person who is a leader in terms of prevailing legislation. And we know legislations speak of equality of men and women. So the effect of the bill when it comes to into an act is that women can be traditional leaders, as it were. So it needs to, it strikes a balance between custom. So you get married in terms of customary law. We can't take that away. You can only get married in terms of what the custom and the usage is. But at the same time, there has to be a balance, as you alluded to that. Yeah.
As we sort of sort out the balance and as laws change, and I mean, the Constitution sees a whole number of laws changing, and that process continues. It's about transforming the country. Do you think this is going to be the final word on this subject, or do you think there could be one or two more sort of tweaks to the law?
Yeah, I don't think it will be a change. So interestingly, so what the Act's recognition of Customary Marriages Act defines a custom as tradition and usage traditionally observed among the indigenous people of Africa, or South Africa in particular. So that says to me that if custom on the ground, whatever the custom is on the ground, that is what we regarded as custom. The court cannot superimpose what is regarded as custom. So it'll be interesting to see with the amendment when it comes into effect, whether a husband who's a staunch traditionalist is able to then say, in terms of the law, you are my equal, so therefore I'll consult in whatever I do, buying property and all those sort of things. So until such time that happens, I don't know if the change will be paper law. And for everyone's sake, I hope that's not going to be the case.
Hope Seteche, Director at Newzroom Afrika. Really appreciate your time this Friday afternoon. Thanks very much indeed.